there's a new bourbon bottle called Uncle Nearest, and it's named after this man who was the first master distiller on record in the United States who was black.
African.
He was a slave, born in Maryland, moved to Tennessee, and there was a young boy who came to work for him when he was 8 years old. His mother had died when he was 4 months old. His father passed away at some point when he was young as well. He went to work for Uncle Nearest, and whose services were being rented by the owner of this farm. And this young boy was a good, hard worker, and he did all these various chores, but he was curious about what Uncle Nearest did. And Uncle Nearest took him in under his wing and served as his mentor and taught him how to be a master distiller. So Uncle Nearest has this new bottle named after him because of it. And the young boy, his name was Jack Daniel. Uncle Nearest was founded
I understand.
by a woman named Fawn Weaver, right, who read the same article that I read in the New York Times about 2 years ago, who's out in L.A., and she got on a plane and went to Lynchburg and started researching this history because she was as moved by the story as I was, and she started this company. And
Jack
a year
Daniels
later,
bought it.
no, Jack Daniels hadn't bought it. This is an independent whiskey
okay.
named Uncle Nearest that
Independent.
was founded by her.
Got you.
Yeah.
All right. I
Yeah.
like that.
Yeah, and
right.
I fell in love with that story when I read it too, and actually now I'm trying to help her with this with some promotion of the thing.
I love you for that. All right,
Yeah.
let me get you in
It's a
this.
great, but it's a great American story because they don't tell us our history, and they say you weren't there. It was like, well, wait a minute.
They take credit
For all of it, and then as regards whiskey, they're saying like, well, the difference between Irish whiskeys and Scotch whiskeys and American whiskeys. Well, I don't know. It's just a mystery. No, I don't know mystery. The difference is you had these Africans who were bringing their traditions to bear. That created this new American jazz in that bottle, like this maple charcoal filtering and honey's derivatives and all these things. So it's just I just love our
Reclaiming.
history because our history is so much more complicated and beautiful when the whole story is told. And this story just is one example of that. Nathan Nearest Green. Because just because you were a slave didn't mean you couldn't be a genius too.
Well, most slaves had to be genius.
You know what I mean?
I was just talking I was talking with an African businessman a couple of weeks ago, and he said American black people are more equipped than any other group of people on the planet to take advantage of the resources in Africa because natural selection and the forced having to adapt to different things
and make something from nothing.
Chitlins. So today I'm going to talk about on my show. No, chitlins were made into a delicacy that today you can buy them for $30 a plate.
Right.
That's entrails all day long. But we always have figured out with the seasonings and we brought rice here, the gumbos and all. That's us.
Yeah.
So whereas most people, you look at the Asians or even the Africans, and they're very linear. We've had to do a lot of things, and
we had to craft something with the absence of resources. We had to use. We didn't have those other advantages, so we had to use our own advantages from it. George Washington Carver. You've been up to Detroit. They at the Ford Museum. They have this thing called the Greenfield Village, something like that, because Henry Ford used to gather all these historical homes of historical innovators and innovations, like Rosa Parks' bus is up there. The bus that she sat they found it somewhere down in Alabama, back with weeds growing under it. And this was after Ford had died, but it's on display up at the Ford Museum. Also up there is one of George Washington Carver's homes that he lived in as a young boy, his actual home. Like there's a Thomas Edison's original laboratory is there, the whole thing. The Wright brothers' bicycle shop is there because Ford was gathering all these things. It's like, But George Washington Carver's thing was, I was like, wow, why George Washington? I mean, I understand, but what was Ford's? And then you see this like old film footage of Henry Ford and George Washington Carver up there, and you're like, what? And you can see Henry Ford, and they look almost like twins, because Carver was like this nice skin, and Ford was like this skinny, like, you know, elongated, and you can see Ford's adoration for this guy. It's like, you know, we know George Washington Carver, the peanut and peanut butter and all peanut oil. It's like, yeah, but also, like, he had these industrial
Engine
applications
stuff, yeah, right.
For bioplastics made from peanut, for biofuels made from peanut. And Henry Ford was doing the same thing with soybean. And so they found this meeting ground around this science, and you could see it in this old footage, just Ford looking at him like, just with absolute adoration. Here is a man born a slave with the man who was the greatest industrialist of his day, meeting as equals.
But we look at Henry Ford as a racist, though.
Well, he was an anti-Semite. Right. He was.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but he could divorce his racism to admire
genius?
I think.
Yeah. Yeah,
you know, racists aren't so have their complications too. You know, I think he tolerated black folks more than he tolerated Jews.